Okay, now call to order the policy committee meeting of the Belton Independent School Board of Trustees. Today is November the 1st, 2021. It's 5 p.m. A quorum is not present. Joining me are Mr. Chris Floor, Ms. Janet Lee, and our superintendent, and of course, council for our district, Mike Morgan, and Dr. Deanna Leslie. Any public comments today?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, so let's go down to item number 3. Matt, take it away.
So 3A, BED local, we recently went through a discussion in the policy committee meeting about BED local and made some changes to both that policy and also the board operating procedures. Based on some learning that our board of trustees did at a recent TASB convention, we were asked to put this on the agenda again to have a little further conversation about potential exploration of a deadline for public comments prior to a board meeting, the day of a board meeting. So wanted to just put that on for discussion for you all, and let you all start talking about it. Holly's here to help us out then.
All right. Holly, I'm glad you're here. Got a couple of questions. Okay, if you look at page 2, board meeting public participation, limit on participation, the very first paragraph.
Yes.
Got a question there. That last sentence says that all other times during a board meeting, the audience shall not enter into discussion or debate on matters being considered by the board unless requested by the presiding officer. I thought that maybe we should omit that because there's not any discussion anyway, or am I misreading that?
Unless requested by the last,
Yeah, unless requested by the presiding officer, because we don't enter into a dialogue with the audience.
not with the audience.
No.
I suppose you could, but I mean, occasionally with presenters.
Okay.
Who are presenting.
Is that what that
reports.
means?
I think so.
Okay.
That's-
Because when I first read it, and I didn't catch it last, I mean, I read this thing before, but now that we have these public comment situations coming up from time to time, I thought, well, we don't enter a dialogue, and we specifically tell them, at least the presiding officer informs the folks that are signed up for public comment that we can't enter into dialogue, and not to misread that and as us being disinterested or being rude or anything.
Right.
We just can't do it.
Right.
So that to me, if someone looks at that, would say, well, wait a minute, can we?
Mhm.
We're members of the audience, because the audience is
Right.
potentially folks that are signed up for public comment. So,
The way I read that is that the presiding officer, the board president, could ask the public speaker a clarifying question for point of reference to maybe push it on to somebody else. Is that?
Yeah, that's how I've seen it used.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if, I've also seen some other situations that are kind of uncommon, but yeah, as a general rule, it would be asking for questions of
Okay.
clarification, directing somebody to, a certain policy, or,
right,
you're just providing the,
But
providing
that's-
discussion, but
right.
some direction,
that's down here, board's response.
right?
That's on the next page. Board's response tells the audience or the potential, the person who's gonna make a public comment that we're not gonna respond, we can direct it to a certain policy. I don't know, I just thought that if I were reading that for the first time and I was out there in the public eye, then I said, wait a minute, we can't enter a dialogue. But if the presiding officer asks a question, then to me, that's a dialogue of some sort. So either there's gonna be a dialogue or there isn't.
Well, usually it's limited to, like it says here, providing specific factual information or reference to an existing policy.
Okay.
I don't know that that phrase is
You okay with it?
essential.
Yeah, okay, right.
I could see how somebody could take that and, and cause confusion, but at the end of the day, it's been a long day. This is a local policy, it's the board's policy
Yeah.
to interpret, so,
Right, and we've always touted clarity.
yeah.
And
Right.
so, this is entitled board meetings, public participation.
Right.
So if I'm a member of the public and I read that,
Mhm.
then that tells me that the president or the presiding officer can have a dialogue with me about something if he or she so desires, right?
Yeah, somebody it could cause some confusion, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Yeah. I don't know, what do you guys think?
The only other question I would have is that I've seen a couple of times, and I don't think it's common practice for us, but I've seen a couple of times where, for example, in this meeting here in the policy committee, where you lean back to other people and ask opinions from certain things. And that's the only other time that I can think about how that might play out, is if there's clarification. I think we've done that from the stage a couple of times as well, where a board member has asked another member of the audience to come clarify something.
Of course,
Is that considered public at that point?
I don't know.
Because if we're reaching into the administration to ask a
Yeah.
question,
Yeah,
is that really public?
yeah, that's, I don't know. That's the only other time.
Because that's how I read this at first,
Yeah.
thinking about it that way, but now that you asked the question.
yeah, because I mean, if I've asked Deanna something, then I've even asked Mike, you know, and Mike has,
Mhm.
you know, for some clarity, you know, is that correct, based on a meeting that we had previously?
That's the only other time I can think about it, like, is if,
In my experience on this thing, of course, Janet's been here, you know, longer than both of us, but it seemed like the only time we've ever had a dialogue with anyone is for clarity in a level 3 grievance, right? Where someone's presenting to us, and then we ask them for clarification on something,
Right,
now we're
ask
asking a
questions.
question to someone that's presenting something to us.
Right,
Other than that, I don't think I've ever had a dialogue, I've never seen anyone have a dialogue with any member of the audience.
it's pretty rare.
We do have the ability,
Audience.
though,
Yeah.
to clarify policy, not to engage in the debate, right? But we do have the ability to, you know, clarify a fact
Yeah.
or to refer them somewhere else, so,
But this says enter into, shall not enter discussion or debate.
yeah.
I mean, I've never debated anything with Mike or with Deanna, I just asked them a question to clarify something that I just made reference to. I don't know, maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, but it's there.
I think I just caught the key word being audience, because the audience would also include some district staff there, it wouldn't just be public. Wouldn't that be true? So it's not necessarily that you would have, I mean, it's not like you're asking me.
True, but playing devil's advocate, it does say board meetings, public participation.
Yeah, and it talks about public comment, so I think that's really specific to the general public, not to administrators.
I think if you took that phrase out, it wouldn't prevent the presiding officer from asking the administration for clarify which policy is that or what was the date.
And my discussion is simply towards the public, not necessarily towards administrative
Mhm.
staff.
So you just want to strike after the comma, is that what you're saying? Or strike,
Or after the period, the second,
Second sentence.
Second sentence.
strike the whole second?
Yeah.
I think we could go.
And
It's a
what's the
redundancy
purpose?
that adds confusion.
Right.
Is what-
Because that's been brought up where, hey, you guys aren't, you're not talking to me, you're not engaging with me, okay? And we made it, in the policy and procedure, we made that clear, but now this to me would have some conflict with that particular provision.
Well, so in theory, this is gonna get reviewed as part of the policy review that's going on, right? And so, do we want to let it play out through that process? Like highlight this and say, hey, look, we'll come back to it as part of that process? Or do you wanna potentially act on that now before that process?
Well, I mean, either way is fine, as long as it's on our radar screen and we're addressing it.
So you're talking about striking the entire sentence?
That says, yeah. Why
I
is it
think
even
it-
there?
I think the sentence has value
Okay.
because the public wants to know, why aren't you talking back and forth with us? That's what we point to.
Okay.
I just don't know that you need the last,
Or could we do away with
Phrase.
the first phrase, at all other times during board meeting? If you just struck that, it's the at
Yes.
all other
Right.
times that's
Right.
causing the
Yeah.
confusion.
Mhm.
Because it looks like there's a different time, right?
Okay,
Good.
remember, Holly, we have it in our policies and procedures where, and we added that actually, where essentially what we're saying is don't misinterpret our not asking you
Right.
questions as us being disinterested or not caring about what you were making a comment about. That's a good point, Jan, maybe we strike that first part.
To me, that it's the at all other times, that's the issue. because there isn't another time.
Right.
There's also not an issue if Jeff doesn't call on somebody. Okay. Yeah, I could go either way. Or maybe someone
Because we make it clear in our policy, in our procedural stuff, that we're not gonna have a dialogue, nor are we gonna answer questions or ask questions. So I think we should be consistent.
I'm
I
cool
just-
striking
Yeah.
part of all.
Continuity is the key, I think.
Okay, so you just wanna strike the first, like, at all other times during a board meeting, that's what you wanna strike?
I think that makes it clear. If it's just left with the audience shall not enter into discussion or debate on matters being considered by the board unless requested by the presiding officer. Is that, or would you just like to get rid of it all?
Well, we do say in our procedures that we're not gonna interact, we're not going to answer questions or
We've got
ask.
the procedure, the first and the last.
Yeah,
Sometimes the policies are easier to find than the board operating procedures, depending on where they are on the
Okay.
district website.
so maybe we should just, as Janet suggests, strike out at all other times. I mean, obviously, it's not anything that's of any great significance to us right now. Holly, you can ponder it and then we can look at it again. I mean, it's not,
Yeah, it'll be, it's common language.
okay.
It's in everybody's policy.
Oh, really? Okay.
And phrased just like that.
So am I getting too picky here?
No, it's just,
I mean, if I am, you can say it, it's okay.
Well.
Here's what I'd say. I think that local policy is to suit the board of trustees. And so if it's something that you feel is important, then I'd say we act on it. That sentence doesn't confuse me. Like, it doesn't bother me,
Well,
but it's all.
I'm trying to sit in the shoes of, or the seat of the public, and if I read that, I thought, okay. There might be a little dialogue that happens here.
The way I read it, being the English major guy, so if we take out at all other times during a board meeting, then that makes it seem to me like it could be during public comment even more, because you're removing that clarifier that says at other times during the board meeting, because again, it says audience, not public, it says audience on there, so the audience could be called on for something by the board president. But again, if you think it would be more clear,
I think it's just the first four words, at all other times. So the sentence would read, during a board meeting, audience shall not enter into discussion or debate of matters being considered by the board. Holly, you've seen these a million times.
I'm not troubled by the language the way that it is. And I think it is consistent with the board operating procedures. So I think the first sentence goes to, just addressing, there is a portion of the board meeting where you'll receive public comment. And then the second sentence just clarifies that outside of that public comment period, there's not gonna be a back and forth with the board, from the peanut gallery, basically, unless the presiding officer recognizes somebody and calls them up and asks them to speak. So,
Right. So asking someone to make a comment to address the board as a whole is not the same as a dialogue between, or a discussion between the board and a person who's making a comment.
I don't think so, unless it goes back and forth.
Yeah.
I see what Mary's saying though,
Debate or discussion?
because there is no discussion or debate.
No,
There
Never,
never is
never.
discussion or debate.
never.
So why
Right.
is that in there?
Right, that's my question.
but there is with staff.
But this is I believe specifically referring to.
Yeah, but it's entitled board meetings, public participation.
So I understand they're public members, they're not required to be here, nor is it say it like that, is. I think they're trying to protect you as a board by putting that language in there, saying, hey, you may call somebody up on staff and enter into discussion with them, but that's the presiding officer's judgment.
I see that point too.
Again, to me, I don't have a strong opinion on that.
Yeah,
No, I'm just trying to help.
I'm with you. But then it should say, with respect to members of the BISD staff.
Well, then I think you have to get into what their comments are representing who, right? Are they commenting on behalf of their role with the district, or are they commenting as a citizen?
That's my point exactly. Because we're talking about people that are signed up, that are participating in the meeting.
Right.
This
It's the word audience that throws me too.
Right, this addresses people that have signed up for public comment.
Well, so do you change the word audience to public? And then does that solve the problem? Because in my mind, somebody who's showing up with a badge, that's not public if we're calling them then related to something
Yeah,
for the
because
schools.
they're here in their capacity as
Right.
an officer of the district.
Right.
Yeah. That's the way I look at it. I mean, when Mike is here, Mike is not here as Mike Morgan, the citizen of Belton, Texas. Mike Morgan is here as a part of the administrative staff of Belton Independent School District. It's part of his job. I don't know, maybe I'm oh, you don't have to tell me if I'm out in left field, you gotta let me know.
Yeah.
Come on, Matt, you're the English major, tell me.
I think you could take it or leave it, personally. I don't see a misalignment, but again, if y'all feel this clarifies it better for our public, then let's do it. I got no reservations.
And it's in the public participation area. I mean, changing audience to public maybe makes sense to me, but
And we can go with your suggestion, Chris, and, we're about to review these things.
Let another set of eyes look at it.
like let the process work and see what happens to this
See what
one.
they say.
We can also pull a couple of other, because again, these policies have probably been looked at quite a bit in the last year. So, we pull a couple other policies, see if anybody's varied from it at all.
We haven't looked at them as a whole since, 2002.
Right.
Yeah, well, the way I look at it, if you put this on the agenda, then I think it's my responsibility, or our responsibility to look at this and say, hey, is there something that we need to change? That's why we're looking at it. I mean, that's the way I look at it,
Mhm.
right? Okay, so what are we gonna do? Let the process,
I'm inclined to leave it as is
okay?
and let the process work through. If you don't want to do that, then I think the second choice would be change audience to public and then be done with it.
I would say deferring to lawyer and our attorney here, who sees this all the time, sees this language, and Matt is in trouble with it. I don't mind leaving it alone. I also see your point, 100%.
Okay.
Why don't we pull a couple others and
Sure.
there's not a hurry on this part.
No.
And so we can pull a couple others and see if there's anybody that has a different clarifier there for us.
And the next thing, under procedures, Holly, this question is for you also. It says individuals who wish to participate, you see that?
Mhm.
During the portion of the meeting designated for public comment shall sign up with the presiding officer or designated. And there was a talk done by lawyers that you probably are familiar with, who indicated during that talk that perhaps you should have in your policy that, for example, here, we say by 3 p.m. on the date of the meeting, as specified in the board's procedures on public comments, which shall indicate the agenda item or topic on which they wish to address the board. So the language before the meeting begins shall be changed to by 3 p.m. on the date of the meeting. Now, why do that? To allow, if, let's say 50 people sign up, okay, and we've got a huge agenda that day. So it allows us to have some, forethought as to how we're gonna handle this thing, that's what the presiding officer.
So they have to do it online, or they have to show up here.
Either way, yeah. You show up
They
here
can
and
sign
sign
up
up.
online right now. This is an option.
They cannot sign up online right now. So right now, it's by showing up with forms and being able to say, we're gonna speak to you, or we would like to speak to
And that's why districts are doing it. When this became a bigger issue, when they changed the law to say that every person who wants to speak must have the opportunity to speak. Before, we could limit the number of speakers. We could say 5 or more people who want to sign up about a particular topic have to appoint a leader or representative to speak. And so now everyone who wants to speak must be given an opportunity to speak, which creates a longer time. So having a sign-up deadline allows the staff to inform the presiding officer how many speakers are signed up. And then an adjustment can be made, if we have X number of speakers, we could reduce the time to, a minute. And tell those people ahead of time so that they can prepare their remarks accordingly. Because if they're showing up thinking they're gonna get 3 minutes, and then when they get here, they're told, oh, you only have a minute because we have 50 people signed up to speak, then, there's some concern that that's kind of, taking people's knees out from under them. So it's an administrative tool to allow the presiding officer to manage the meeting better and to tell people ahead of time, if they're going to be limited in terms of the amount of time they have to speak. That's the thought behind doing that. And I've seen districts do, I think the shortest, however you want to look at it, time to sign up. Dallas ISD has a 2-day, I think people have to sign up like 48 hours before the board meeting. I've seen others say you must sign up, 45 minutes ahead of time. So the district recently that's going to change it to sign up by noon the day of the meeting. So you've got a range of options available to you, but that's the idea behind it.
I would never consider doing it outside of the day of the meeting. I mean, I can see limiting hours, but if you make people go back, like, there could be issues that come up that you wanna speak about in the 2 days before the meeting.
Because we only provide notice 3 days before, so then you would only have 1 day. And then you look at it the next day, and wait a minute, I have to speak on it, well, I can't now.
I wonder if some of that is because I don't think it's in those districts. So I was gonna say, if some districts limit the public comment to only items on the agenda, signing up 2 days in advance, I get it then, but that's not Dallas ISD. So.
Right. I don't remember what
No,
they limit.
Just in our meetings, when we had like 8 people sign up, and I'm watching Jeff, and he's focused on what he's doing, right? And then he's got these public comments, so it would help if you knew that in advance. I think.
It'd be helpful to all of us.
Yes,
for
all of
sure.
us, for sure.
It would also help us, like, when they come in, to get them a little more organized, like seating wise, so they're ready to speak. So, because we are having so much lag time
Yeah.
between some comments.
Yeah, just sit up there at the front.
Yeah, in
Boom,
order.
boom, boom.
So the flip side of this is also accessibility, right? So kind of the beauty of how we have it today seems more accessible, right? So somebody who's working doesn't have to necessarily take off to try to get us some form by 12 noon. So I mean, I get all of the procedural reasons for us, but I'm now trying to look at it from the other side, and what is the impact there?
And we would need to come up with probably an online form.
Right.
And that could increase our numbers, just putting that out.
Yeah.
I mean, my thinking was just make it 3 p.m., and keep it the way it's just 2 hours.
Yeah.
Potentially 3.
You could end up with a bunch of forms for people who don't show up either, right? So part of the beauty of how we do it today is you show up at the form, we know you're there, right? And we don't have 30 forms and only 10 people show up. Yeah, I don't know.
Hadn't thought about that.
Oh, you like
I'm just thinking it from like a denial of service, right? Like if somebody wanted to put 500 forms in, then we gotta sort through 500 forms before.
And potentially adjust your speaking time for all of the others.
Right.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
It could create competition.
The other issue is what you're getting at, Chris, is that, if it's during the day and you have people who work, it's hard for them to get up here and sign that, or, they would have a limited window. I mean, they could come the day before, but again, it depends on what time they get off work, so if they have a traditional work schedule and can't get here before the office closes at 5, then that limits it. So I do think there's benefit in the presiding officer having some advance notice of how many speakers are going to be involved, but what your cutoff time is, it's really kind of depends on whatever your preference is.
So what are you saying? You okay with the 3 p.m. deadline?
Yeah, I'm still chewing on that accessibility piece. Right, because I think if somebody has something relevant to the meeting, but they can't make it by 3 p.m., I mean, we've lost an opportunity. I don't know.
If they can't make it by 5 p.m., we've lost the opportunity.
Right.
I mean,
But really, I mean, they got till 6:15.
well, then I go back to, we're not denying accessibility, we're not denying an individual opportunity to address us, right? We're not denying.
No, we're not. It's just from a convenience to the public standpoint, right? Like,
Right.
and I get it, it's our meeting.
Our meeting, and the first and foremost, we have to conduct the district's business.
Yeah.
Oh, you said that.
Yeah.
That is, it resonates with me every time we do things, okay? So, I don't know, I just don't have any qualms about it. I think it would be a good administrative tool for the presiding officer. And if I were the presiding officer, I would like to have that tool available to me.
So if we did that, so right now, could somebody turn in a form before that day? Like if they brought a form up here the day before, somebody would accept it, Connie would accept it, you would accept it?
Of course, it says by 3 p.m. on the day.
Well, no, let's just today.
Today.
Like, forget about the 3 p.m. piece, right? So somebody brought one up the day before,
Yeah,
right? Like, that's still good, and so
Or we
it's
have a month.
included in the,
3 weeks.
yeah, of course.
yeah. And so maybe that's how you get around, I don't know, that they gotta get up here by
Yeah, no,
4:30,
it
but
it doesn't say, it wouldn't say you have to do it at 3, it says you have to do it by 3.
Right.
So you could,
I'm trying to wrap my head around my accessibility challenge, right? So if we've given somebody the opportunity to deliver it the day before, right, well, okay.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
That's-
Do you think the online submission, though, would really need to be thought through? That could be abused pretty hard.
So one of the things on the form, I think it says what agenda item or topic that you want to talk about as well, so that
Yeah.
the public would, anybody signing up on the form, it's not like I don't think we would accept the form that just says, I want to speak at every board meeting for the remainder of the year. And I'm trying to think about how this might play out. So again, if we stick to a form that's, according to agenda, and according to topic that they want to talk about, I think that, yes, there would be any reasonable, somebody wanted to deliver it on, I guess, Friday before a Monday board meeting, of course we would consider that.
And so online form might not be necessary
Mhm.
if you
Right.
can take it whenever. Which would cut that problem
Yes.
of it being abused,
We're talking about 2 hours. It's a special, rather than like a public hearing, we start at 5, right? So as long as they're signed up, and right now, they're signed up by 6 or 6:15.
And I think it could help us with some efficiency on that.
We've got families that work at Fort Hood, we got families that work in Austin, we got families that work in Waco, right? I mean, like, so to get back here, sometimes it's rolling in here like as the meeting starts. And so I just want to make sure that if we do put a deadline on it, there is a mechanism for somebody to drop the form off potentially after hours, right? So is there a mail slot somewhere they can stick it in? So that we don't cut that off.
not doing that now.
Well, right, but if they show up, but if they're able to make it for the meeting time, then they're good, right?
Good.
And then that's really 6:15.
Yeah, and the doors are closed here at 5 p.m.
Yeah. I didn't think it that far.
Well, I wonder if you did just say, sign up, the day of, but you had it online and in person.
That's another option.
And the only reason I'm thinking about it like that is because when you just said, we have families working at Fort Hood.
Yeah.
Hey, if I'm at Fort Hood and I wanna be able to come speak at the board meeting, but I can't get over there obviously is a convenience factor to the online thing.
Right.
We don't wanna let it get abused,
Right.
but there is a convenience factor that we would probably like to help our public work.
You know, my view is that
Just stay up.
if you're a member of the
That would
public
be,
and you're watching what's going on with the district, you can look at the notice on Friday. Okay? I mean, I think very few people are gonna say, well, it's a spur of the moment kind of deal.
so I guess we've got some IT people who could create a form that goes live at 8 p.m., at 8 a.m. on the day of the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. We definitely could do something like that. And take, in-person or online forms from 8 a.m. to maybe even 7 a.m. so that you drop it off on the way to work at 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. or something if you wanted to have that.
I think if we went online, I mean, we could even shorten, back the time up. It doesn't have to be noon. I mean, we're gonna do that.
But if your online bill goes down, you only allow a day of,
Right.
cutting it off then,
Yeah.
if you've got other accessibility issues like Chris is talking about, and stuff goes down.
But then somebody's gotta potentially print all those forms, or like, there's gotta be consolidation now of hard forms and electronic forms and, yeah, I mean,
I think you need to pick one or the other.
you're right, I mean,
You don't think you could do both?
Well, you could do both, but, you could.
but who's gonna do the scheduling of those people, right?
I mean, we could do any of that, but still, I mean, we could make it really complicated. We could expand, I mean, now we're expanding things even more. Yeah.
It would be interesting, I hadn't thought about it until you just mentioned this, so we would have to post different times though for policy committee and for facilities committee, public comments as well. Because 3 o'clock isn't 3 hours before a board meeting, it's 3 hours and 15 minutes before a board meeting. This one would be 2:15 or 2 o'clock, whatever we say.
Mhm.
The facilities committee would be 1 o'clock.
Here's one other thought, just to throw out there. When you have people come sign up in person, they usually sign up for themselves. If you have an online form, you could conceivably have somebody sign up.
Yeah, I think there's lots of ways for that to be used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's,
Now we've created another issue, we can do that.
Yeah.
Now we've got a mess.
And there's a certain investment you have to fill out that
Yeah.
form and bring it.
Absolutely. That's my whole point. I mean, so if somebody really wants to address it, they're gonna do that. And they're gonna look at things, they're gonna watch things.
But I do know people who have shown up, not knowing 3 hours before that they were actually had the courage to come and talk. Again, like those are cases where we might really need to hear that. I don't know.
You know. I mean, this may sound harsh, but if you got, okay, us 5 right here, so Chris, I'm gonna sleep tonight. Are you really? Oh, I am too. Oh, then Mike says, you know what, I'm jumping on, here comes Deanna. Okay, and here comes Holly, now we got 5, when none of us are gonna do anything, so I guess I mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no forethought there, it's just, boom, we're just gonna, I mean, that's just my thinking.
So maybe let's get back to the problem we're trying to solve, right? So is the problem we're trying to solve just the administrative organization so that we can better streamline and make use of everybody's time during the actual meeting, right? Is that the problem we're trying to solve, or are we trying to, or is there another
Which
problem?
we can, I
That's
think there's some ways we can make things more efficient without changing a single thing about how we do public comments.
Yeah.
But I think the main thing we're trying to do is solve, like, have a little forewarning, have a little preparedness on our part, on the staff's part, you know, that kind of thing.
You know, as we grow, and when I went to that talk, that was given by those two lawyers, I was sitting next to a lady that was a school board member of the district up near Dallas. And she said, oh, we had 91 comments one day. And then when I heard the recommendation by that lawyer, I thought, you know what? Gosh, if somebody showed up and we had 91 comments, that tool would be really special for us. We could really utilize that if that happened. So right now, you know, we've got 3 or 4 people, we've got none, we got 8 or 10. It's not that big a deal to manage, but as we grow, there's gonna be, I mean, I think there's some direct proportion to the way your district grows, you're gonna have more comments. It's just gonna happen, right? Matt, you've seen that.
Mhm.
So we're trying to get ahead of the game here.
Yeah, I think administratively, obviously, it would always help to know a little bit ahead of time, because there are, you know, in the example you gave, 91 people showing up unannounced impacts things like management of meeting, number of supervisory personnel that we have on duty for meeting, things like that. So obviously there are some benefits to it. The accessibility and access piece I'm struggling with in my mind, trying to think through what the best way to address that is, because I think there are people that have signed up for our public comments that aren't maybe as inclined to sign up online as they would be to show up in person at the time of the board meeting. There's a little bit of that too. There's some things that make Belton special that I also don't want to lose in sight of growth as well, because while it has been, you know, we've heard a lot from a lot of people over the past year here. I think in the grand scheme of things, we are still in a very understanding and positive place compared to a lot of districts around the state and nation. So I don't know. I'm thinking about the accessibility piece. When you said Fort Hood, that really resonated with me.
Yeah.
Because we do have people who might have some limitations on what they can do and a lot of time.
I mean, we don't have to make a change.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think immediately we can streamline what we already have, right, to your point.
Yeah.
You know, to help us get there, we can certainly think on this, because,
Is there a front row?
yeah, no, absolutely. You got a front row pass, it's your fast pass to the front of the,
I loved the way Leander was doing it with the 3 desks. You
Yeah.
know, like, your mic goes off, yours comes
Yeah, well,
on,
then-
next
then-
one.
Then let's
and
do that. Let's manage it better.
Yeah.
Let's manage it better.
I like a single desk and.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just because it's less for there to be the game day posters in the back.
Well, main thing is, we just gotta cut that lag time out.
The time that
The
they walk up.
transition back and forth and in between, I mean, they ought to just be ready, call 2 up at a time and have one.
Yeah.
we
Here's
have
who's
to have
speaking, here's who's
yes,
on deck,
right.
here's who's on the hole.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
Be
until
ready,
the
folks,
new
let's
come
go.
up, he sends you first.
Yeah, I think it would be wise
Well,
not
let's
to
do
have
that.
it in the front row. I think one of the benefits of our setup is that we don't have a front row with multiple people all crowding around one area. I think that's a positive thing, but I think there's some efficiency that we could do on a walk-up. If we just simply said, next up, Chris Floor, Manuel Alcozer's at the podium now, next up, Chris Floor, so that there's kind of a,
That's another one.
Some guidelines,
Well, then let's at least do that.
start there.
and then think on this, I mean, I think it's worth thinking through this more.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
I mean, I see y'all's points, but maybe it's just like, we put a three day deadline, period, that's it. I mean, that's what I would do. Because you know, we're not violating any laws, we're not doing anything, and all we're doing is giving the presiding officer an administrative tool that person needs to manage the meeting. So,
And just trying to stay small.
right, no, I understand.
Try to feel small.
Yeah.
it might be, you know what we do is we can try a couple of these things out and revisit this. And again, this is a policy that'll be brought up later this year. And so try things out for a couple of meetings, see how it goes. and go from there.
Let's do that.
That's fine.
Okay.
I'll touch base with, Mr. Norwood when we come in next board meeting about that facilitation.
Okay, anything else on those things? All right. Holly, if you'll go down, same page. Under procedures, let's see, first, second, third, fourth full paragraph. When the board conducts a public hearing, you see that?
Yes.
In there, I thought we should make it clear that the individual, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think Janet may have brought this up at one of our meetings. We need to make sure that paragraph makes it clear that the person has not only 3 minutes, or it could be less than a number of people, during the public hearing portion of the meeting, and 3 minutes also during the regular board meeting.
Right, I thought we did that.
I think the first sentence does that though, at least the way I read the first sentence.
Yeah, right. They address the board during both the public comment portion of the meeting and during the public hearing. However, comments at the public hearing need to be, or if you're commenting on the topic of the public hearing, you need to say that for the public hearing. So you don't,
You don't get to talk about it twice.
right, but if you wanna talk about something else during public comment, then you can.
So the person collecting the forms is gonna read to make sure they're not double talking on the same topic.
Well, we've got like 2 forms, so the way I figured it would happen, I don't know about the checking of it, but, you know, I figured someone would ask them, are you talking about topic for the public hearing? If so, sign up here. Talking about a different topic, sign up on this form, and then keep them separate.
But does it say that you have 3 minutes for both the public and the regular board meeting?
It doesn't specify the minutes.
Well, so, unless otherwise provided by law or if the speaker's time is adjusted by the presiding officer, the individual may address the board for 3 minutes during a public
During a
hearing.
public hearing. So it should say during both a public hearing, well, during a public hearing and a regular meeting. Right?
So if I use an example of this, just to try it out, I mean, the way I understood it is that if we have a, let's say, public, hearing on our budget, and we also have another agenda item that
On
is,
the budget,
maybe something different,
something different.
totally different topic, so, facility, naming of a facility.
Okay.
Somebody could come in regular public comments and comment on the naming of the facility before a decision is made. But they also, because it's a public hearing and we're supposed to let the public have a right to talk about that specific topic, when it comes to budget time, they could also talk about budget for that same 3 minutes. And I think that's where we landed when we did talk about it earlier, am I right on that?
That's my understanding.
But does it say that?
He's just saying there's no indication that you have 3 minutes in the regular board meeting.
Right.
But I thought
Oh,
we had
because there's
that.
no guarantee that you do.
Because it could be adjusted.
That's true.
It could be adjusted, but we need to say that also.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So the clarifying that,
What that needs to say is I've got 3
3
minutes
unless otherwise.
for public hearing unless otherwise suggested by the presiding officer. But I also have 3 minutes for the regular board meeting unless otherwise suggested by the public officer.
got it.
If it's on a separate, I can't speak on the same item. So let's say we have a tax issue during the public hearing, and then it's on the agenda item, the tax issue is on the agenda item again, for let's say a vote. Okay? So I can't speak on both of them, I can only get one bite at the apple.
Yeah.
Okay? On the other hand, if it's 2 separate issues, then I wanna be told as a member of the public that I have 3 minutes to address the board at the public hearing, but I also have 3 minutes to address the board during the regular board meeting.
That's what we intended this language to do, but if you think it's not clear, then we need to fix that. Under procedures, the 3rd paragraph is kind of the general rule of having 3 minutes per meeting.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Right there.
And then that next paragraph was just intended to clarify, because I remember somebody came and spoke and said, well, what about if you also have a public hearing? And so This was an effort to try to say you get 3 minutes for both, but,
But you
it
don't get
gets a little
6 minutes on the same topic.
That's right.
Was that?
And you don't get 6 minutes on the
Right.
same topic.
Correct.
It could probably be a little bit more artfully drafted. If anybody has any suggestions, I'm all in.
I mean, I do like this language here about unless otherwise provided by law or the speaker's time is adjusted by the presiding officer. I do like that language being associated with the public comment period as well.
For 3 minutes during a public hearing.
So I almost wonder if we
It's
take,
almost the location of where that sentence is,
Right.
yeah. Cause that helps clarify a little bit.
I would also say paragraph 3, if we reread paragraph 3 to sound more like unless otherwise provided by law or the speaker's time is adjusted, right? Like keep that way we talk about it parallel.
I mean, if I read 1, 2, 3, 4, these 5 paragraphs, well, 4 paragraphs, well, the 5th paragraph, if I read that to myself, then I said, well, we got 3 minutes of public hearing, but can I do it both? Do I get 3 minutes both times, or just 3 minutes of public hearing?
I mean, the intention is,
Well, I understand the intent.
well, but it's so, if we all agree with the intent and we don't feel like it's clear enough in here, then we need to clear it up.
Right, so my question is it clear enough, or am I not in left field again?
Well, I mean, if it's not clear for you, it's not clear for somebody else.
Well, I mean, maybe I'm being too picky.
But if it's not clear for you, it's not clear for somebody else.
Well, I
Like-
mean, it's clear to Holly, and man, this is her baby, I mean, this is what she does, so.
Well, to some extent, don't take this the wrong way, I don't care if it's clear to those two, right? Like, I want it to be clear to somebody showing up at the meeting wanting to talk.
That's what I've been saying. Isn't that what I've been saying this entire meeting? I mean,
Yeah.
It's funny though, cause when drafting it and reading it and when we did first reading here and adoption.
Right, because we just did.
We just did this, and so, but it made sense, but until you just said it like that, I don't know if I would have thought I would have been confused by it. But I think sometimes that lens on it is, oh yeah, this probably could be readjusted or reworded, so it's a little more clear.
well, not necessarily confusion, but does it answer my question? When I read something, I say, well, this is my question, before I read it, I say, this is the question I have in my mind. And then I read it and say, did that answer my question? And if I say no, then it's not clear to me.
Well, you said no, so it's not clear, so let's take another crack at the language.
Well, and this paragraph is unique to Belton, because I couldn't find any other district that addressed the public hearing question that we got from your citizen. So this was an
But that
intention.
was a good question.
It was a good question, yeah.
And then Janet, you mentioned it also. I don't know if you remember doing that, but you mentioned it also. Said, well, wait a minute, do they get 3 minutes both times? So let me make sure I understand it. So you get 3 minutes unless it's about the presiding officer, a special meeting or a public hearing, okay? Then I get 3 minutes at the regular board meeting, as long as that's not the same agenda item, right?
Unless adjusted by the presiding officer.
Yeah, because there might be 100 people showing.
Right.
I don't think that tells me that.
Okay,
I mean, that's just my view. Now, there's a bunch of smart people in here, so y'all look at me, does it say that? Max says it does, right, man?
Well, I did
You
up
can
until,
say yes.
I did up until earlier, now I'm sitting here going, well, I do think that there's a line in there that possibly could be moved up to that third paragraph under procedures that could clarify some things. So I do think that we could reorder a couple of stuff.
I don't have any problem with tweaking the language a little bit,
Okay.
making it a little bit, it didn't change anything,
Yeah.
it's just words.
Clarity.
Right.
But I would like to see us talk about those two limits using the same
The
words,
same, yeah.
right? They need to be parallel.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right, what's next on your list?
So
That was it for me.
that's it for BED.
Well, that's it for me. I don't know, I mean, Janet,
No.
Chris, you
No,
guys
I'm
have anything?
I'm good.
So here's what I think our takeaways are, make sure Holly and I are on the same page on this one. First of all, we take a look at just the administrative functioning of the meeting and talking and working with our board president to say, let's talk about having somebody on deck, where we might locate those people that are on deck for speaking so that we can cut down on transition time, and we try out some things like that over the next couple of meetings. So the first part. Second part is really about this notion of the public hearing and the public comment portion of the agenda, and making sure we have consistent language between the public hearing and the public comment portion, so it's more easy to read for our public.
Right, and it's, I mean, understand that we're doing this because a member of our public brought it up.
Clarity.
The clarity, which was a good question.
Just a real quick question for Erica and Holly, you may remember this too. Do our forms note this on the form when people sign up?
For public hearing?
Yes.
Yes, for public hearing, it's a different form than our normal ones, and it has a section at the bottom that says public hearing. I'm here to comment about the public hearing.
So I wonder if
So
there's
it's
a little
both
clarification that could help with that too. So we'll bring both back.
Okay.
We'll look at policy and we'll also bring forms back so that we can look at both to make sure that when somebody is signing up, they understand what their guidance is.
That's a good idea. We probably ought to look at the forms too, looking at the procedure.
And Connie redid those.
Okay,
She
yeah.
sent me a copy, she
I
updated
don't think
those.
we ever got it.
Okay.
You sent them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we did.
We did.
I think we did.
I made sure of it.
Okay.
We don't get a copy.
Board report.
I'll make sure I send it to you again.
In a packet?
No, the weekly.
Oh, yeah, but not in a meeting.
Mhm.
Okay. And if when I read these things, I mean, you guys are smart folks. I want to hear from you. Okay, I mean, if you say, hey man, you're in left field, dude, you need to.
Look, we need to make it understandable to as many people as possible. And if there's somebody in this room that feels like it's not understandable, then there's no hope that it's understandable to everybody
Sure.
that's out there.
We're gonna talk about these
Like,
policies a lot.
Yeah,
so.
okay, so
Yeah.
don't feel bad about it.
Well, I mean, I just want you guys to know that. I mean, it ain't gonna bother you. No, man, you're dead
Well, we
wrong.
shot down 2 of your ideas.
Yeah, we had to give you one.
Yeah,
There is that.
yeah.
That's an interesting way to put it right there. How about that?
So maybe happy.
I'm not sure he realized that, so I would.
Yeah. I realize it.
I can keep score over there.
I can look at Matt and know that he's not necessarily agreeing.
I do a good job on just nodding and saying okay though. Here's what I would say.
You say okay, but I can read the other parts.
Well, here's what I would say. If I had a hard opinion, I can tell you my staff will guarantee you that I share my hard opinion.
Okay.
If it's not a hard opinion, then I don't bother you.
Well, the way I look at it, I'm not doing my due diligence if I don't read these things critically.
Totally.
Right.
I mean, if I got a question, I'm gonna read it, and if it's not answered, then I'm gonna let you guys know, so, anyway.
So forms, maybe some updated BED language and administrative guidance for facilitation of the board meeting are 3 things. Does that sound good? All right. Are we ready to hear from
What's
Dr.
next?
Blood-Smith?
What's next, Matt?
You ready?
I'm ready.
Deanna is here for our first reading of policy EIC local. And I think it reflects exactly what this committee said it should reflect, so we're looking forward to it.
All
The
right,
gift that keeps on giving.
the gift that keeps on giving. I think it's exciting to be here. We were talking about it before the meeting we've done, and I want to thank you because we have had some great discussions in this journey to get to where this proposal is tonight. And around that question, that central question that you all wrestled with, which was, does our policy prevent barriers or contribute to barriers for students to follow and pursue their interests and dreams? And so tonight I have EIC local, as we discussed. And so I'm just gonna go through just a couple things to make sure you know kind of where some things have changed and how this policy works. So anytime you make a significant change to EFC local, it is always recommended that it's done with an incoming class. And so we will carry a policy that will need to be updated annually, until it's for one class. And that's what we've done since the last time, this policy had a major revision. So the first section will be, addressing the incoming class, that's 2006, and you always refer to a grade level as their graduating class. So the first piece will be for incoming ninth graders, which will be the class of 2026. In terms of calculation, it stayed the same as the prior policy, with the exception of adding in CTE advanced courses. And so we will have a place in our course catalog where those courses are specifically identified by name. Yes.
So is that the level 3 and level 4?
Those are level 3 and level 4.
Advanced CTE.
Advanced CTE classes, and we'll label them as level 3 and 4. The challenge with that is sometimes where you take that in your course sequencing.
That's a significant change.
That's a significant change. Those were not included at all.
Give me an example of advanced CTE, like, would that be like anatomy and physiology?
A level 3 would be
Civil engineering.
civil engineering, a computer science or engineering AP, if we had an AP computer science, or could be culinary arts at the 3rd or 4th level. So anytime where you've taken that sequence and what we know that sequence is leading you to a career pathway.
We don't know all those courses yet, though, right?
We will identify them by level 3 and 4 in the policy for moving forward. But yes, I mean, there would be any courses we're currently offering.
Okay.
But like right now, you could look at the catalog and like the pathways through each of the, and they're lined up, and you can tell today by looking at them.
Absolutely. But we'll clarify it on a specific page in reference to classroom, just so there's not confusion with that.
Right.
And then in the exclusion piece, this is a big one that has been added, and that is, or it will exclude a non-advanced CTE course for which a math or science credit is earned. An example of that would be a level 1 engineering course or forensic science. Or computer science is a great course. That's a level 1 course, so it's not going to meet the above criteria for being advanced. But they have been weighted in the policy because they provide a math or science credit, and that deters students from taking those courses that would need them.
So that last part is
It's just that last sentence is added and clarifies for earning math or science. Then the rest of it, so then we go into the level of categories. And so that level 4 reflects our discussions around choice for AP advanced courses. So you'll choose 6 courses in your sophomore and junior year and 2 courses in your senior year. It does not address by specific deadline where we'll put that in administrative processes.
so it'd be like 3 and 3? 3 courses sophomore,
It
3
would
courses
be
junior?
up to you could do 3 your sophomore year, 3 your junior year, or 2 your sophomore year, which is probably more likely, and 4 your junior year. And remember, we talked about the importance of by junior year, because those students will end their junior year applying for colleges. Why not all 6 by your junior year? Because then that continues the pressure to take a heavy load of AP when we do want you students to feel the opportunity, to seize an opportunity to take CTE courses. A level 3 will be advanced CTE, advanced placement, dual credit on-ramps, advanced and pre-AP courses. And I know you'll see that advanced twice. There are within our system advanced courses, for instance, advanced pre-calculus, where there's not a pre-AP option, or College Board is now, they are maintaining control of the use of pre-AP. So in the past, any course you could choose to designate as pre-AP and option to use their materials, they now charge you $6,000 per course to use that designation. And so we just want to clarify that those, and we'll identify what those courses are within our system.
So advanced here is broader than advanced CTE, right? It's-
Correct.
Yeah.
It can be advanced geometry, advanced pre-calculus,
Gotcha.
where there's not a pre-AP option per college board, but we have created an advanced option because there's a difference of a student that would be in pre-cal and maybe an advanced pre-cal because they plan to go into calculus.
Say
And
that
that's
again.
probably the best example.
What did you say just now?
So we were talking about advanced CTE earlier being like the third and
Advanced
fourth
is-
classes in the pathway, but that's not what this refers to. This is, it's broader than that.
It's a few courses. Advanced pre-calculus is one of the most notable courses that would apply to.
So the advanced courses are broader than the advanced CTE.
Correct.
Correct, because they're they
Yeah.
fall into a math, a science, and ELA. Level 2 are level courses, and then level 1 are eligible skills-based courses, and again, we'll identify what those courses are in our course catalog.
So I see we've gone from tiers to levels.
Let me see where in exhibit. We always, as I think I've probably used the word tier in our conversation, apologize about that. Our actual EIC exhibit uses the word level. Then, because we are changing the policy for incoming, we need to designate the next pieces of the policy are specific to our 22, 23, 24, and 25 graduates. And we want to, I was just pausing for a minute, sorry. I'm including 2022 just because we are adopting this in the middle of the year. So that means, we have current students in this. We are adding the word advanced, although we currently, that's not changing the way we calculate, just clarifying that. And then nothing's changed in that section. Those are currently students in the system. And then we remove all of the 2021. It's no longer applicable, so just as part of our annual cleanup, we would have done that sooner, but since we were in discussion with this already, it just made sense to hold it.
So you're talking about page 6, that would have come out anyway.
That would have come out on page 3. It's page 3 on my, it's page 6 in yours, yes. That
Page
would,
6.
Yeah, this is our annual cleanup.
it would have been our annual cleanup to remove a piece of a policy that's not applicable. And remember, every year, I'll edit that section to just take out we typically want to just take out a class that's already graduated. We don't have to, but if we're cleaning up a policy, we like to. And then we have the remaining pieces. So these pieces of the policy, transferring of grades, local graduation honors, balance out, these apply to every graduating class, regardless of the new students coming in. And the only change within this section is at the very end where we address Belton High School and Belton New Tech. And in that piece, there's been discussion in regard to Belton New Tech and having our current sophomores and juniors be able to continue as Belton New Tech students, but yet making the campus a standalone. So for those remaining 2 classes, you would still have a combined GPA.
Where are you?
At
4 of 6?
or at the very end,
6 of
correct.
6.
And it's important to note that before this policy is approved for second reading, we will need to have the new tech decision made first, because if there's any changes within that decision, it would impact the second reading of this.
What decision?
We just voted on it.
Oh my gosh.
I just wanna make sure there's not another.
I cannot believe I just made
You
that
got some
error.
explaining to do back there.
I have so many conversations with him right now on this policy, I cannot believe I just made that
I didn't know
error.
what to say then. Just say
Alright.
that.
I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say on that, because I've been in so many conversations with him on how to support that campus. I can't even believe I just said that. So you're just have to forgive me for,
I thought I cleared up.
I apologize for that.
Daniel was wondering, what did I vote on?
Oh my gosh, I can't. I was at the last meeting. I have no words. I have no words to excuse
Okay,
myself on that other
so
than
backpedal now and just say what you really should say.
yes.
So
So,
let's back up, yeah.
so we voted on the campus, you voted on the campus to be a standalone campus beginning with the freshmen.
Mhm.
And the 9th and 10th, 11th graders will still be able to attend Belton High
Right.
School. They will be, my understanding is they are held harmless for graduation. They'll continue to be a part of Belton High School's graduation.
Yeah, let's clarify on held harmless. So they're gonna continue with the same situation that is this year, up through their last 2 years of high school.
Correct.
Nobody's being harmed in any way on that one, it's continuing the current policy.
Correct.
So that's the seniors, the juniors, and the sophomores, 22, 23, and 24.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
I wrote down.
I'm
we'll
really
need to
sorry.
take
I'm so
decisions.
frazzled at myself right now. I'm like still having to regroup. Oh my
I can't wait
word.
to talk about this at the end of our.
Oh, I can't wait.
I really am gonna get so much grief on this. I can't even begin.
Camera running?
You're still running. Oh yeah. There's probably a lot of people out there wondering too. No, I apologize for that. Yes, well, they'll be held because we want to keep kids with that decision held harmless. Other than that, that is presented to you as we discussed. I'm open for any questions. Oh, let me go through. So then there's a couple changes with EIC EIC exhibit, just to reflect EIC local. And that is, beginning with the class of 2026. So we removed the label since the chart stays the same in terms of, grade calculation transitions. What changes on the chart is the labeling of the levels, so those have been moved to the top. If you are in the class of 2026, then your levels will be reflected as in the policy. If the changes in the policy, if you're for the classes of 2022, it should read 2023 and 2024 and 2025. Your levels will stay as they were in the policy, which is and those changes really are reflected in the level 3 and 4 distinctions.
What are your current thoughts on, when kids will declare?
So we are going to work through that process. I heard that discussion about how can they be in the course. And so we've begun some preliminary conversations around after the first grading period.
Okay.
So maybe like you're in the course for 9 weeks. If you wait until after, like if you go to semester, well then we're running calculations. We try to get those out in January as soon as that semester has ended and commutes are here. So that's really a tight timeline. So if it's the end of a 9-week grading period, first marking period, then you know there's a time there where you would have time to get the information from students, record that information, designate it so that it would be calculated when those calculations are run. And we run GPA calculations at the end of each semester. So they're run in January and in June. Now remember, for this calculation, a freshman, this is not gonna impact, it's coming in your incoming freshmen. They're not gonna choose an AP course until their sophomore or junior year. So we've got internally, once this, should this be approved, then we have over a year to get all those administrative processes in place and roll that out. We're gonna start conversations with parents immediately in terms of kind of as what this will look like, but we've still got some time to just really get our best thinking around those processes.
And I know you told me this, but for kids who grade skipped math in the 8th grade or 7th grade, seventh, eighth grade, whatever that was, and they wound up with AP classes, like maybe one AP class, is that possible your freshman year? I believe Addison maybe did this.
I'm not gonna, it's not impossible. You would have, so as an incoming freshman, you would, in middle school, you could have taken Algebra 1 and Geometry. So your freshman year, you would have pre-cal, and that's not an AP course, that would be a advanced pre-cal course. And math is typically the only place where that's occurred. The freshman course that we have right now for
So that
that's
having to
AP.
declare an AP class would not be an issue then,
No.
even if that's truly your path, I mean, you know it's their path. So, but it wouldn't be an issue because they wouldn't have an AP class.
At that point, it wouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
Because, and I think that's part of the reason that you said there wouldn't be a declaration of freshmen for consideration of classes on this trajectory because of that. So that it allowed them to take the appropriate classes that they needed to take. And it doesn't matter if a student is in pre-cal, just like AP World Geo, we're just saying that they couldn't designate that their freshman.
You can still take the course, they can designate it, but even in that case, there's not even a course that they could have necessarily designated because pre-cal doesn't fall into that play. And the one freshman course right now that is an AP course that students take is AP Human Geography. And it is a very challenging course, it's very challenging for a freshman, and not one we would recommend a student, even that has a passion in that area, it's just by nature of the course would be a challenging course to take. So it takes kind of that off the table for
Yeah, that's where I have a little bit of heartburn because I happen to have one who did that and did really well in it. And so now, I mean, this policy won't apply to her,
Right,
But there are
absolutely.
kids who do
For
that,
sure.
and so it feels like it would be nice in those cases for them to be able to say, well, like for all the kids that took that, to be able to look back, okay, knowing what I know today, this is what I'm into for AP. I did great in this class, I want to count that one, right? Yeah.
But then that gets tricky with what she's saying, like the calculations trying to go back in time.
Right.
Well, we would, if we wanted to open that up, which certainly we could, it would be modifying this current policy to read that up to a total of 6 courses completed in the freshman, sophomore, and junior years. So you could open it up and just add freshmen in there, and then we would just educate parents around if they want to make that choice as early as their freshman year. There's pros and cons to it, certainly open to it either way.
I'm just not sure I would want to elect 9 weeks into my freshman year, right?
So that's the biggest
That's the
challenge.
part.
Right.
The biggest challenge I was gonna say on that is that while in one hand it would open the door for the students that do exceptional well and truly do love social studies, which is what that course is under, at the same time, this is a lot for a student and a parent to understand, and along with coming to high school and trying to understand credits and how the requirements for graduation. And I think it's I would think a student or a family could make a better educated decision around this their sophomore year than their freshman year. That's
I
just
personally
really
agree
my
with
opinion.
this, I agree with this decision, the way it's written. Because there's a lot of high school ahead of you, there's a lot. And kids who do well in that will also do well in many other things.
Hey Deanna, can you go back, you said something when you were looking at these charts. So the chart that we have now will apply to the class of 22, 23,
Correct.
right? So there, it's not just this chart, it's the other, it's the old chart too. right?
So when you move the headings up to the top, then the chart stays the same, and then what changes by class are the headings. Because you still are going to translate grades from, you'll still maintain a 7.0 scale. And so you'll still have, if you earn 100, then so on this, if I'm an incoming freshman and I choose to have I'll have up to 8 AP courses weighted, and I earn a 100 and those will be weighted at a 7.
No, I mean, for the class of 23, if I'm in the class of 23, I'm gonna look at this, am I gonna look at this?
Everyone will look at this chart. We've deleted the heading titles from it and placed them at the top. So depending on which graduating class you're in is what those levels will refer to.
So we could actually have 2 charts.
We could.
Yeah, okay.
So instead of having labels up there, we could print out 2
I got you.
charts. It just felt very cumbersome for a parent
I'm with you.
to see. Although I'm still recovering from my major foot loss, so I feel like I'm sure I can answer anything right. No,
Can we strike that from the record?
I would love to strike
I
that.
think it works that way.
I don't think so either.
But anyway,
Deanna, when I looked at this today, I started to tell you this in the hallway, but when I looked at this thing today, and I was reading over this and digesting it, I thought, we had all those meetings and you really simplified it. And I appreciate that. And for some reason, it kind of clicked for me today when I read this. And I thought, wow, man, I must be out in left field because I kind of knew where you were going, but when I read it, I thought, man, this is good.
All right, we need you to take a crack at the public comment section.
Yeah.
I will say, I appreciate that, and I thank you for those very kind words. I will say that it is a very complex policy for
Right.
parents.
And this is,
And we will be, and we outlined that in our last meeting, but there will be, need to be many conversations with our stakeholders and our counselors and and thought into what the design looks like in a course catalog to help a parent understand this policy, because it is a challenging policy. We've been talking about it, and so we tried to write the policy as clear as possible, but still putting this policy into the daily life. I just don't want to underestimate the change it's gonna happen in our
these
system.
8 pages are gonna, this is district-wide.
Mhm.
It's gonna impact, every kid in this district, right?
Potentially,
Eventually,
for those that are
Yeah.
pursuing class rank, not
Sure.
every child is concerned about class rank. It typically falls in your top 25% or so. What this will really do though is answer our question about barriers, and I go back to that slide where we asked our students if there were courses that they felt they could not take due to the grade weighting, and they answered yes, and they listed all of our CTE courses, and we value those, and the industry values those courses, and so
Doesn't it allow you to do both? If you're looking at class rank, it does open up your
it
options.
opens up your options so for a student that wants to pursue
Yeah.
all AP courses, we encourage that. This is in no way intended to change them. If a student wants to pursue all of their AP courses, then we want to. We have some excellent courses and some excellent teachers in those courses. But it does also open the door for that student to pursue.
Best of both worlds.
I think so. And as you go forward with things like this, parents teach parents, like the parents will teach the parents coming up how this works, and it'll get easier. There will probably also be some snags, like you'll think, well, maybe we need to cover that. Like we didn't see that was a way that things aren't working like we hoped they would. We'll go there then, but I think this is so far since that first article in that says we're like, what?
That first meeting was a little fun. I'm proud of the work, and where we're going.
And you've always tried to give credit to the folks that you've been working with, so, thank them also. Wish I could thank them as well.
Well, I'm thanking them, and we'll have some future folks that will be key players in this, our counselors and advisors especially, and so we'll be working with them closely to explain this and understand it.
So we're gonna bring this for a vote? Second reading?
Put a pin in that one just for a second.
Okay.
Hold on. A couple questions here. So page 2 of 6, right, the 22, 23, 24, 25 section, right, level 3, where we added the word advanced.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to talk to you in language, so she's using those page numbers. Page 5 in your book. So we've always been doing that, we're just clarifying that here.
Correct.
Okay.
So been a change with the college board, and they are saying now, so we have a course, pre-AP English 2. In the past, we were able to, call that course pre-AP, and we used some of their materials, now they charge you for those materials, and they control if you can use the words, so we're not gonna change.
Right, now,
Any
let me ask the
courses
question
that-
differently. So the placement of the word advanced here, does that impact the CTE pathway
No.
3 and 4 courses?
No, it
So
does not.
those, okay, all right,
And that's because when you go up, especially when you look at calculation,
right,
the CTE courses
gotcha,
are
excluded
not
there,
there.
okay, all right, good. And then, I mean, while we're all, I think, on the same page here, there's gonna be, sounds like future work with families and counselors and all that kind of stuff. I know the last time this was touched was just before I got on the board, and there was lots of discussion and focus groups and all that kind of stuff. So, do we need to do any other socialization with this before we as a board do something with this?
I think it's been very thoroughly vetted. We didn't have a policy committee then.
Yeah.
We didn't have lawyers sitting in the room listening to all of it and the board reviewing. We didn't have any of that.
This was a year.
Yeah. I mean, I think contrary to our last public comment on this subject, this does not close doors down on options. This
No.
actually creates a lot of opportunities that weren't there
And
before.
still allows them to advance and compete.
Right. And so part of my fear is if that comment is, if people believe that to be reality,
But it's not.
it's not, somebody doesn't understand it. Right.
I haven't read it. So,
Well, and I think there's a couple of things from my point of view on it. I don't know if y'all remember, but it was January 6, 2020, when we first started talking about this, and when I first got to meet you all. And then we had a closure due to COVID, and we had to take a look at policies regarding grading class rank. And 2 of you in this room said, we need to talk about this policy. And so this has been a 2-year process of, almost a 2 full year process of talking about it. To your point, could we hold focus groups, get additional feedback from parents, things like that? Absolutely. The impact that would have, that would probably delay a year of implementation for that. And we just need to know that going in. But I think in this type of a situation where you're actually opening doors instead of closing doors, I think a lot of it comes down to the details and communication over the next, as Deanna said, it's gonna be over a year. And we're gonna have to work with people on this, and I think that we can do it well.
So,
I mean, we've been bringing it up during reports,
yeah.
did the workshop. I mean, this thing's been on the table ad nauseam. Right?
So it might be good for us to create a sort of a what if tool. Right, so as part of the explanation when we go through that, right, like, I don't know if it's fancy spreadsheet or whatever it is, right, but like to help people visualize it during the explanation, so. Okay. Now we go back to your question, taking the pin out.
Did you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
when we talk about
Yeah.
directionally, like where we're going,
We're here.
everything that we've been
Yeah.
doing is building up to this, right, so. Yeah.
So when we present it, should we, I mean, because it is so, I mean, this is a vast, this thing affects everybody. Should we do a short discussion with Deanna coming and hitting us all with it?
I think right now tentatively, we have it slated for a action item, not just on consent agenda, but as an action item, so it would be a brief overview. I don't think we would go into a long presentation again, because
No,
we have
no, of
spent a
course
recent
not.
workshop on it.
Of course not.
But I think that would allow us to be public about it one more time, coming up.
So my plan, in regard to that was to just, so I've been working on that presentation, just to have the list of dates of every time this was discussed in the committee and what was discussed, so that would be very, so, while that same slide was, in the presentation at the board workshop, when this was discussed, I felt like that would be an opportunity to just remind everybody again, of that communication, and then to have the proposed policy, and then to reiterate the slide that involves the future communication around the policy, and that also. So actually, it's two slides that were in the board workshop, but a repeat of those publicly one more time, just for anybody listening to be reminded of the communication before the policy, what's in the policy, and the new communication that will precede the policy.
Removing barriers.
Removing barriers.
This is significant. I mean,
This is one of the most impactful policies, in my opinion, that you can have on kids, and I think y'all have demonstrated, I know it's been hard at times, and it's been hard on Deanna, because we joke that it's the gift that keeps on giving, but it's worth it, and especially if we are removing barriers, and if we can take a big step forward.
maybe my brain's a little bit slow, but like I said, it finally clicked. You know, as to what you were trying to communicate to us.
It's exciting, I mean, it's exciting for students.
It makes me wish my kids could have gone through that kind of system.
Absolutely.
And I think I would like to express that
Mhm.
to the public. They need to hear that.
So we can bring that to you all, if you're all in agreement, we'll bring that to you all for second reading.
No.
Hold on, one more minute.
I hear that, I'm like, oh.
Chris is here.
Come on.
Chris, are you on board or not?
I'm on board. I think it's great.
I do know, I wanna say real quick, I wanna thank you all, I do know, Deanna and I have never sat in your shoes as a board member, but I imagine one of the frustrations you have sometimes is trying to feel how you impact a system of 13,000 plus kids and 2,000 plus employees, and things like this are big deals. So, thank you.
Well, sometimes I feel like I'm behind the eight ball because I'm not an educator, right? And, you know, maybe I'm wasting time discussing things that we shouldn't get into, but, I mean, as long as I'm on here, I'm gonna keep doing it that way. It's
You
just,
have to do what you are strong at, because that's why you're here.
yeah,
That's why we each came with different gifts.
right, so I'm gonna,
And we're parents that have kids
Right.
impacted, and our parents are not educators, and so I think those questions really help everyone understand like what's the complexity of this. So, appreciate any questions.
oh, Chris, you're staring at me, what's going on?
I have one on both sides of this. So my oldest will not be impacted by this, but my middle one will.
Okay.
And man, I think my oldest one would have really benefited from it. So
That's a really good, that's a touchy-feely statement, I like that.
we've had a lot of hard conversations about course selection, and I think this would have changed those conversations a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm proud of it, actually. I mean, you did all the work, but I feel good about it. Anything else on EIC local?
I want to acknowledge Deanna real quick. It's not the most comfortable position to come to a board and a policy committee and say, we're just studying. I'm not coming to you with a final answer, and we're gonna all work together on this. And her approach, I think over time, she chuckles, but I think it's has been good overall. And so I want to acknowledge Deanna.
You know,
Feel like I've come a long way
but
since
you
last
know,
year.
the other thing, I mean, this would be good for, you know, one of these conferences, I mean, to do
Absolutely.
this presentation.
I was just thinking about the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. I thought that when we were at the conference, that we
Yeah.
could totally talk about
I
this.
mean, that's what I'm saying, I mean, think,
We can talk about that.
think about the impact you could have in other districts, and if they're struggling with those things. I mean, this is,
Well, but even from a process standpoint, like how did we get here,
Mhm.
right? Like even if you don't agree with our final
That's
ranking,
what I'm talking
right?
about.
Yeah, how did we get to where we did, and how was
yeah,
the
this
board
wasn't,
engaged?
this wasn't knee-jerk, this was a well-thought-out, well-planned, process.
Well, I appreciate the discussion. To Matt's point, it is not easy because we do feel and we live these things every day that we have to always come with an answer. And it's been very, very exciting to really walk through it with you all and to provide that opinion, but to let you all, because it decide where are we at with this, because this kind of gets to the heart of what we want for our students and our values and our beliefs for our students and our, all of those things we talk about. And this is a policy that will impact that, and it will be a challenge. It will be a challenge to continue to walk through with this as we change mindsets and shifts from ways things have always been. And no one else has a policy like this, but no policies are the same either. When you look at EIC and the heart, everything I've always been told in my career is EIC reflects what a community values and what their kids take and the options they have. So, thank you for the comment on those.
I still say it's a great presentation.
I think we should pursue that. I really do. I think that, I think where school districts get things wrong sometimes is that the board has specific roles under state law that says you should be running policy things, and that you should be looking at policy, you should adopt a budget, all those other things, and sometimes we don't treat it that way. So I appreciate y'all bearing with us through all.
Well, I just learned a lot from the process. I mean, when you first started this, I thought, where's this going?
Sounds like Nancy is.
I really wanted to say that, but I was like, I hear that.
So, anyway. So what's next?
3C, real quickly, and this is, Deanna told me to take 30 seconds. Maybe not 30 seconds.
It'll take a little bit. All right,
District of Innovation update.
So District of Innovation update. So we did in February 2017 approved the District of Innovation plan for implementation for the 17-18 school year. And so this current year that we're in is our 5th year. And with the District of Innovation plan, at the end of 5 years, you need to decide if you'll renew that plan or not. So just so you all know the process, we took our current plan to DWIC on October 26th, and we discussed the progress of how that plan has been implemented and what we learned from it. We plan to bring to DWIC to discuss a proposed plan and any policy implications actually with you all at the December Policy Committee meeting. On the 7th of December, we plan to present a renewal plan to DWIC for actual vote. So they've seen what some things we're thinking on in regard to that, but they'll see an official plan and be able to just determine if that's what they want to approve or not. From there, in January, we would take it to the board for intent to renew. So the board is required to send TEA an intention to renew the DOI plan. Nobody actually approves the plan except for locally. And then we would post the plan on the website. So a plan must be posted for 30 days and then presented in February at a public hearing. And then in March at a policy committee, we would provide any first readings should there be any policies that are impacted. And then there is a final note to TEA sent that the board approved the plan as presented and that we plan to implement it, and we provide them a link. So there's this process that we are currently involved in terms of our DOI plan. Would you be aware of that? And I can answer any questions about our plan if you have those
What
or.
policies that, do you know?
So it'll impact a few different policies.
Right.
And it goes from, and the easiest one that everybody relies on is our start of the school year and the school calendar. So without a DOI plan, we can't start, before the last Monday of the month of August.
But is there
It lives in a separate document.
Yeah.
So I think it's under the about.
It
track,
is about BISD on the
Yeah.
website. But what Deanna's saying is that at the next policy committee meeting, she's gonna go over all of the policies that it impacts, and why it's important for the
Okay.
policy committee to know.
I'm just thinking about when we report to the rest of the board, so.
I just
So-
say it's coming our
It's
way.
coming our way, so when.
For renewal.
Okay.
And anybody that wants to pre-read, here's where
Correct, we're in our 5th year of our DOI plan, and
Yeah.
we're in the process for renewal for the upcoming school year.
One thing to note on that, I just caught this, I wish I'd caught it earlier, I apologize, but the March policy committee meeting, I think we tentatively put that on hold so that we could do policy review work with ASB, with the entire board.
Oh, correct.
So we might need to adjust that timeline, but we'll be in touch with you all on that one. I think that we said we were gonna do a 3-hour workshop with all of you based on the TASB, policy review process.
And Matt, I believe that as part of the TASB policy review policy, they look at your DOI and let you know if you need to update.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, so.
So
Sounds
we,
like it intended.
we have, like, February is when the plan would be proposed to be presented at the February board meeting, and then we have time to change any policies before the upcoming school year.
Yeah.
They're impacted.
More to come.
More to come.
More to come.
You feel relieved, right?
Yeah.
You have to, yeah.
Well, I feel very, very good about our process, so engaged together, yeah.
Good job.
That's what's your next one.
Yeah.
I think we might have a whole bunch of them coming up over the next year.
All right, any issues, concerns for future agenda or administrative reports from anybody? Before I drop the hammer,
Loves doing that.
we stand adjourned.